Hello there guys, welcome back to Younes Talks Football, welcome back to a brand new video. I hope all of you are doing well. This technically counts as the first match review of anything related to the 24-25 season, right? It's the first game back, technically, even though it's not part of the season, it's pre-season. But it's in the same umbrella. We've moved on from last season. This is a new chapter, and we've witnessed the first match. Now, I don't know about you, but this game was on at a crazy time. I managed to catch, right, the first half and about 10 minutes of the second half before I had to go. I then, later on in the day, I managed to come back, catch up with the entire second half, so I've seen the entire game, right? So this review is a proper match review, so don't worry about it. What we will be doing, obviously, because this is a match review, I'll see exactly what's going on, and then later on, we might have a second video, so make sure you're subscribed based on all the news and everything that's going on. If there's any big stories, you'll be getting a second video later tonight. So make sure you're subbed, hit notification bell, keep that on, so then you're up to date when I have uploaded. Socials on screen as well. And the second channel, link in the description, new video is imminent on there, so keep your eyes peeled. It's a big one. Let's get cracking. It's finished Chelsea 2, Wrexham 2. Now, This game was a very interesting game, right? I want to say this off the bat so people understand. I mentioned yesterday, and I'm going to stick to this. The result doesn't matter, yeah? Even if Chelsea had lost that game yesterday, technically it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter one bit. It doesn't even matter if we'd win. If we won yesterday, it still wouldn't have mattered, right? The things to have looked out for was fitness, endurance, stamina, who's fresh, who's rusty, the style of play, combinations, certain runs, individual performances, collective performances in between players. How's that chemistry looking? Obviously there's players that have never played together, there's players that have. What's that all looking like? So those are the things you have to focus on. And I got to be honest, there's positives and there's negatives, right? There's irrespective of the result. That is irrelevant. Do not put the result in your head or at the forefront of what I'm about to say. Doesn't count. I'm talking about what we actually saw. Yeah? That's key. We started off the first half. I've had to write these teams down so I remember properly. But we started off with Sanchez in goal, Levi Colwill, Badiashile, Tosin, and Reece James as, on paper, the back four, but it wasn't a back four. It was Reece James inverting into the midfield. That's what it was. So technically, it was a back three with Reece James having advanced forward. And then he went alongside Romeo Lavia, basically. And then Chukwuemeka went a little bit more forward. That is what we basically saw. But in defence, Reece James did go back to right back. So it was a little bit of a hybrid, if you would say that. Chukwuemeka, Lavia in midfield, Madueke on the right, Tyreek George on the left, and Nkunku and Mark Guiu up top. Now, I'm not going to keep this review too long, right? The first 20-25 minutes were shambolic. Let's just acknowledge that. That was pathetic. As a standard of the match, you could fall asleep. Nothing happened. The first 25 minutes, nothing happened. It was dead, right? Fair enough. First preseason game, I'm not going to, go in too hard on that. I'll cut some slack. But a horrible first 25 minutes. After that, it looked like Chelsea was starting to pick up some rhythm. But even in those first 25 minutes and then throughout the rest of the first half, I've got two names that I can look at and go, you guys played a preseason game how it was meant to be played. What do I expect in a preseason game? Even if players are rusty, I need to see intensity. There has to be intensity. The players need to be forcing themselves. They need to be pushing themselves. There needs to be movement. There needs to be intensity, you know? Tyreek George, Mark Guiu. Brilliant game for them. Brilliant game for them. Tyreek George was fresh, moving, was trying to find solutions, was coming inside, was taking players on, was moving, yeah? And done pretty well. and I'm very happy with him. Mark Guiu was moving as a striker should be moving. Very direct, taking the defenders on, running into good spaces, getting around the shoulders, was good. He could have scored. When he managed to there was a ball across, I don't know, was it from Lavia? But the ball came into his path and then he chested it around the goalkeeper. If the instinct was quick enough, he could have... Drogba, yeah? Drogba popped into my mind because he'd done it against Arsenal, if I'm not mistaken. But chest around the goalkeeper, wait for the ball to touch the floor. Just as it touches the ground, tap it in, right? He didn't. He let the ball bounce. So now you got to wait. Time's gone, so control it. And then the defenders come back. And if he was a bit quicker, I think he could have got that goal. Because the angle was tight, but if he had executed it, he probably would have scored. But Mark Guiu was brilliant. Overall, I'm very happy with him. But why am I saying those two players were brilliant? Because they didn't stop moving. They were intense. They were playing as a pre-season friendly should be played. Players should be looking to up their fitness, to get sharper. You're not going to do that by being static. And that was my problem with Chelsea throughout this game in multiple occasions, especially the first half. The second half was a bit better in that regard, even though we looked a little sloppy in other parts of that second half. But the first half, we were static, just not moving. I'm like, guys, what are we doing? Are we not moving or what? Like, this is a pre-season friendly. Push yourselves, guys. Even for each player individually, they need to push. I don't know if there's a PTSD of injury or anything like that, perhaps. But those were the two players that, for me, stood out in that first half. Madueke, very bright, but his execution at the end, every single time, was just, what are you doing? You know, like... Very rusty, right? Great intentions, but very rusty. And other players, honestly, the defence, I can't really say too much about the defence. Lavia, I thought was okay. Chukwuemeka, I thought was a little bit off. Again, rusty. Not bad, didn't make mistakes, but rusty. And Nkunku got the goal. And this is where Tyreek George and his initiative worked. Because when he managed to get the ball, he cut in, he took the shot from distance. And what happens when you take a shot from distance? Sometimes it falls in your favour. And this is why I advocate for us to shoot more from distance. We don't do it enough. But what did it result in? It resulted in a couple of deflections in the box. Ball landed right into the path of Nkunku and he tapped it in. Well, not tapped it in, he smashed it in. So 1-0 to Chelsea there. So fair play. The second half, we switched 10 out of the 11. Bergstrom came on for Sanchez. Ben Chilwell at left back. Gusto right back. Achiampong and Fofana in the middle. Gusto inverting into midfield like Reece James was. Santos, Ugochukwu, Angelo Gabriel on the right. Sterling on the left. And Chukwuemeka, more of like a second striker attacking midfielder. And Armando Broja up top. That was... the second half team. And this one was a little bit more reckless. There was more about the game. There was more activity, but we were making more mistakes. The second half, much more mistakes. Defensively, we looked shambolic at times. On that left-hand side, specifically, Ben Chilwell was caught sleeping. And not just that, Sterling wasn't tracking back. So Chilwell had to fend for himself and he was failing at every single point. And this was a surprise because I'm looking at these guys and I'm thinking, lads, you've played together. You know each other. You're the senior players. What's going on? I'm looking at other players on the pitch and they're playing all right. That left-hand side was struggling hard. And then even defensively, Fofana looked like a liability at times. Very rusty from him. Achiampong, I think he looked a little bit nervous. He looked like he was on it. He looked active. He looked like he was pushing himself, but he looked like he was in his head a bit too much. You could see that he was a little bit, overexcited, maybe a bit panicky, but that's normal. I'm not going to cut him for that. That's normal. But we got caught out. And the two Wrexham goals, one of them, ball coming straight across and no one is there. Chilwell is central instead of being pushed out a little bit more to cover the man that got the ball in the first place. So I don't know what Fofana or the central defenders were doing. Sterling wasn't tracking back when he was the one that could have guarded that man in the first place. The guy was left at the back post to fend for himself, and then he tapped it in, 1-1. The second goal for Wrexham, this is just, again, really poor, right? Ugochukwu, if I'm not mistaken, was the one that let the ball go. And players around him not making themselves available. Just really poor awareness. Beautiful ball into the path of the striker that scored. Fofana, I don't know what he was pointing at or looking at when you just got to focus on your man. Just don't let him get the shot off. He let him get the shot off. Sticks it into the bottom corner. Beautiful finish. Fantastic finish. And it's 2-1. And at this point, we're thinking defensively here, we're looking at shambles, right? Lo and behold, towards the end of the game, last 10 minutes, we do get the equaliser through Ugochukwu, funnily enough. But a nice little piece of action. Ball comes into the box. Again, laid off by Armando Broja, if I'm not mistaken. And Ugochukwu finds a little channel to send the ball into the bottom corner. Very nicely slotted and good finish. But in this second half, Angelo Gabriel looked bright. Still raw, though. He looks raw. You see how raw he was looking last pre-season? He looks a bit better now, but you can still, we see it's still raw. So that's Angelo Gabriel. Santos looked decent. Santos looks like he's always very calm on the ball, and I like that. For a midfielder, I like that. Ugochukwu needs a loan. He got the goal, but needs a loan. Absolutely needs a loan. Achiampong, I think, will come good. Probably just nervous, but I think he'll come good. Sterling, same old Sterling, really. Same old. Takes the initiative, does what he's got to do, does too much, loses the ball, is what it is. Chilwell, for me, poor. For me, was poor. Very poor. Very poor. That was not of his standard whatsoever. And Fofana was looking a little reckless in defence. So, positives and negatives. Now, this is the first pre-season game. So, everything that I've mentioned or everything we look at, we have to now take forward into the next game on Saturday. That's Celtic. And we have to see improvements. I got to be honest. In this first pre-season game, I don't think we saw what Maresca wants us to do yet. We didn't. People are talking, Maresca ball. We ain't seen Maresca ball. That wasn't Maresca ball. That was... It looked nothing different to what we saw last season, except we had a fullback inverting. And even that we did with Cucurella last season. But there wasn't much to see and go, wow, that pattern of play looks outrageous. No, there wasn't. There was a couple of patterns that you could possibly you could look at and go, well, yeah, that's blatantly what Maresca is trying to tell the team to do. But the team didn't execute. They didn't execute. But it's normal. It's the first pre-season game, and there's a lot of these players that are playing together for the first time. So this is why I'm saying this, is because this is something now that we have to see improving in Game 2, Game 3. Then we play Real Madrid, Man City, Inter Milan. You get into those games. Once you're in those games, I'm sorry, we would have had to already nailed what we're trying to do. So the things we didn't see yesterday, the things that we're waiting to see, construction, build-up, breaking through certain runs, certain patterns, certain combinations, that should come throughout pre-season. That wasn't there yesterday. It wasn't. And it's evident. How many times did the defenders have the ball? Just look at that. The amount of times we were trying to build up and we couldn't. We couldn't get through. Wrexham were playing low block, 5 men at the back. Cool, try and get through. We were struggling for a good portion of the game. Until when we decided to really press, and then we managed to get into the final third. But we really didn't do it that often. So this isn't Maresca ball. Not yet. This is going to take a little bit of time. So it's up to the players now. They need to be sharper. A lot of them are rusty. It wasn't a brilliant game overall. 2-2 is irrelevant. But I'm hoping now to see improvement game by game. Celtic, we need to see more. And then Club America, we need to see more. And then we get to the big boys, and there's no excuses because you're playing against the big boys now. We need to already have established our patterns, the way we want to play, our build-up, our combinations, chemistry between certain players needs to be established by that point. Not at 100%, but at least on some level. Because now you're playing against big boys that already do have all of that. So it's a good chance to push ourselves, and let's see what happens. Let me know your thoughts down below in relation to that. Shout out to Wrexham. I thought they played really well for what they set out to do. You could tell that they were testing themselves against a big team and looking to see how resilient they are in defence and how good they are on the counter. And what they can do, even at times when they do want to build up and play with the ball. When they did do that at times, they looked a little reckless in the, not quite the final phase, but where their attacking midfielder is, along with their striker, going into the final phase, they'd lose the ball a lot there. But apart from that, they were pretty good. So fair play to Wrexham, good run out. And I hope the players get sharper and fitter quicker, because a lot of them are looking rusty. And I got to be honest, for a pre-season game against Wrexham, it's not something I expected too much, but we had a lot. So let me know your thoughts down below. Much appreciated. And let me know who you thought stood out, who you think didn't, and what do you think going forward into the Celtic game on Saturday? We will definitely do a review for that, as we will for all the pre-season games, and I'll let you know what I think. So thank you all so much, people. Don't forget, if there is news up until later, there will be a second video later tonight, so make sure you guys are here. And subscribe, hit the notification bell, check out the socials on the screen, and the second channel, first link in the description. Keep your eye out, as I think later on tonight, there will be a brand new video launching on there. So make sure you guys are there. Much appreciated. See you lot later on. Take care, and peace.